Hey, I'm here at Sauder Village in Archbold, Ohio. They have antique car days today, and I brought my TT truck. And we have a really nice car show here. It's open to cars 1942 and older, and some people brought some really nice ones. So we're going to take a look around and see some of the cars that some people brought, and just have a nice, relaxing day at a car show. Anyway, why don't you join me, and we'll see if we can find something interesting to look at. All right, for those that don't know, Sauder Village is a historic village, and they have this new 1920s street, and about half the cars, say, are parked there. It's actually a really nice setting for pre-war cars to park. Looks really great with all the cars lined up on the street. Believe it or not, this entire street just opened a few years ago, I think in 2020. And in each one of these businesses, if you go in, they're set up to be just as they would have appeared in the 1920s. So we've got a really nice line of cars here. Very nice 1941 Buick. We're going to come back and take a little closer look at that in a little bit. Behind that, we've got a 1932 Plymouth. Very nice car. You don't really see those too much. Just a nice car. I kind of like Plymouths. Model A's. We have a lot of Model A's here today. And let's see, we've got another Model A. The Model T behind there, I believe, belongs to the museum. It matches the furniture store that's right next to it there. Very nice 1940 Chevrolet pickup truck. I like trucks, and this one looks really nice with the two-tone gray. This is the last year for the Master Series. The following year, there'd be an all-new redesign with the AK Series coming in. But just a really nice truck here. Speaking of trucks, this one is parked over at the gas station. This belongs to the museum. This is a Rio truck. They don't have a sign that gives the year on it, but it's 1920 or thereabouts, give or take. Anyway, I think I've mentioned before, Rio, that stands for R.E. Olds. That's his company after founding the Oldsmobile Company and then leaving that. But just a really nice big truck, and I like the patina on it. Whenever I see original trucks like this, I always like to pay attention to the hardware, especially the hardware around the bed. Original hardware always looks different than modern hardware, and you can tell once you get the eye for it, the difference between an original bed and then a modern reproduction becomes fairly obvious. But this is actually really nice. I like it all around. The engine on it is interesting. It's a 4-cylinder, and these cylinders are cast in pairs. And then those pairs are bolted to the oil pan. I would have liked to see it run. I like the big rocker arms up on top with these long push rods that go down to the bottom. It's got an exhaust heater on the side that I think is accessory. Open in summer, close in winter. That's actually kind of neat too. So moving along, nearby we have another Rio. This one is from 1910. Rio Motors actually started in 1905, so it goes way back. This is a nice car, one of the few brass cars here today, so naturally I'm drawn to it. Really nice. The headlights are carbide. Then we have kerosene taillights, squeeze bulb horn, bale type handles on the doors. Lot going on with levers. Just a really nice looking car. Next up here is a 1924 Overland Roadster pickup. Overland was part of Willys-Overland, which was based out of Toledo and made a number of cars. Here's another Overland, this one from 1920. Willys-Overland produced the Willys Knight and the Stearns Knight, and then, of course, later on, they went on to produce the Jeep. Overland as a brand would continue until 1926 when it was replaced by Overland Whippet and then finally just Whippet. Nice example of a touring car here. At the time that this was produced, Willys-Overland was one of the top brands in the country. I really like the wire wheels here, just a nice look. Sticking with the Willys family of cars, here's a 1931 Willys 6. 1931 was the last year for the Whippet, and the Willys 6 and Willys 8 models kind of filled in the gap that was left when that brand departed. Nice lines on this one. Next up, we have a 1933 Willys 690. There's a Willys-Overland badge on there because that's still the name of the company. The Willys-Overland name would continue all the way up until 1953 when they were bought out by Kaiser. Super nice roadster, by the way. We'll circle back around to Willys-Overland products a little bit later, but for right now, let's take a look at this 1936 Chevy Master sedan. Nice classic 1930s lines. I'm guessing under the hood there is the famous Chevrolet Stove Bolt 6. That's an inline six-cylinder engine that they started producing in 1929 and continued in one form or another with refinements all the way up until 1979. Next up, we've got a 1914 Model T Roadster. This is sort of a transitional year. You see the headlights and the side lights are brass, but the bodies of them are painted black. This is sort of a transition from brass, which by 1914 was becoming sort of old-fashioned and passé, to a black painted trim that was seen as more modern at the time. Nice car. So here's that 41 Buick again. Really nice business coupe. Buick was planning a redesign that came out in 1942, but of course that was a foreshortened model year because of the war. Here's a 1924 Hupmobile. Hup Motors was actually doing pretty well about 1924. It was a fairly competitive brand. In fact, they were attempting to move upscale and also acquired Chandler Motor Company a couple of years after this. Unfortunately, their attempt to move upscale was right at the wrong time, and when the Depression hit in 1928, it didn't really leave them in a really good position. They never really recovered, and they eventually closed shop about 1939. They really didn't have the wherewithal to compete against the likes of this very smartly styled 1936 Ford. In front of that is a very nice Model A. There were actually quite a few great Model A's here today, so I really don't mean to shortchange them. Let's see, there should be a car right here. Oh, there it is. This is a 1939 Crosley station wagon. This is the first year production, and the 39 station wagon is actually a very rare car. Its early production model is probably using the 35 cubic inch 14 horsepower engine in there. I like this one, just a nice straight Model A. It's kind of a driver quality, so not too shiny, just kind of the way I like them. This is just your reminder that if you do own an old car, occasionally get out there and get some bugs in your grill, for heaven's sake. Here's a nice 1941 Ford pickup truck. The owner said that row of clothespins on the gas line there is supposed to prevent vapor lock. I've never heard that fixed before. Does it work? I don't know. He claims it has, so I guess you really can't argue with success. Anyway, just a really nice truck. Staying in 1941, here is a 41 DeSoto. For those of you not familiar with the DeSoto, it was a mid-priced Chrysler brand. It was a good car, but they didn't really sell well in the late 50s, and by 61 it was phased out. But this is a really nice example. I like the color-matched interior on it. The green, I think, just works. Wood accents on the dash. This is the early 40s, so you still have some of that Art Deco look that it's just a nice car. Over to the side of the car show, the Village is running their little sawmill. It's just fascinating to watch some of this old machinery work. They're taking full-on logs and cutting them down into planks and then rough sawn beams. What makes it even better is that they're running the whole apparatus off of a flat belt pulley on an Oliver tractor. Over next to the Oliver tractor, they've got a farmall that's running a smaller buzz rig. That's just a great big huge rotating blade that's run off of a pulley. It's pretty simple, and I've run into those things that are rigged up to run with either Model T or Model A engines around farms too. Looks like they're going to have quite a stack of lumber by the end of the day. Let's move over to a quieter part of the Village and look at some of the other cars. The village is actually quite extensive, and they have a museum building too. So if you're going to go and visit, you can easily spend the whole day. Let's walk over here and take a closer look at this Cadillac. This is a 1929, and I always kind of like these. They've got the really fancy hood ornament on there. That's referred to as the Flying Goddess. Anyway, during 1929, Cadillac is starting to slide during the Depression. Between 28 and 33, Cadillac sales dropped actually 84%. So it's a pretty precipitous fall. This one is nice, though. I like the bud vases in there. Anyway, Cadillac did eventually manage to recover, but only with the introduction of some new, more streamlined models. And no, I did not walk right past that Rio without noticing it. This is a 1926 Model T6, also has some nice bud vases in there. Looks like a real comfortable car to drive. 1937 Chevrolet Master Deluxe. This is a little bit more upscale than the standard Chevrolet. The body style here is actually called a passenger coupe. You might notice that it's only a two-door, even though it does have a back seat. This one looks very nicely restored, and I actually like his choice of the wide white walls on there. Looks really nice. Bustle back on the trunk. Neat little boat tail speedster. This one is Model A Ford based. Speaking of Model A Fords, here's kind of an unusual one. This is a 1931 convertible sedan. Yes, that top does go down. And yes, when the top is down, those sedan side windows do stay in place. About 4,000 of these were made, making them fairly rare for a Model A. If you think the Model T Ford was the first mass-produced car, you're forgetting about this little guy here. This is a curved dash Oldsmobile. They were made from 1901 up to 1907, and they were fairly popular back in the day. They produced about 19,000 of these things. As you can see, they're very buggy-like. They had the tiller steering up front, what looks like a normal differential back here. Fooled you, there's a chain going in there. That's actually chain drive. Parked over near it here is a 1931 Plymouth PA. Nice car. I like the Plymouth hood ornament. It's nice. It's understated. It's a good look. Pay more attention to Plymouths because I have a Plymouth pickup truck sort of disassembled back in my barn. Remember that discussion we had earlier about the Willys-Overland company and phasing out the Overland for the Whippet? Well, here is one. This is a Whippet. Actually, a 1927 Overland Whippet. See the nice shape of the radiator there? A lot of people like those for building speedsters and things. Looks nice here in its natural habitat, actually attached to a Whippet though. The Whippet name really only lasted from 1927 to 31. Geez, would you look at that? It's a whole stack of firewood on wheels. Looks like they'll let anything in here. So here's what you get if you actually spend the bucks and get the Ford steel cab. This is a square cab. They also built a C-cab body style, so you had those two cabs to choose from. And then they had a whole variety of beds that they would supply for you. See the 26-27 style instrument panel there. This one is also equipped with hard rubber tires on the back. The solid rubber tires could carry more weight, but were really only suitable for slow speed operation, typically in town. The museum has a little Ford dealership set up with a Model T two-door. I just want to show you real quick how the front seat folds forward to get into the back. They also have a really nice 14 touring car over in the garage area. I kind of like this area and just sort of like to hang out here. They have a lot of Model T parts scattered around on workbenches, so it just really makes me feel right at home here. If you'll indulge me just a little bit, I want to talk about my truck. The cab is made by the Bryan Specialty Company in Bryan, Ohio. The village has a lot of store fixtures pulled from the surrounding area, so there are 3 stores that have cabinets made by the Bryan Showcase Company in Bryan, Ohio, the same company that made my truck cab. Here, as you can see, even my wife can have fun at car shows and find things to photograph. So I was talking to this baby lamb here, and he says that he would very much like it if you were to like and comment on this video, and of course subscribe to my channel. You don't want to disappoint this baby lamb now, do you? Do you? Anyway, we've got a lot more car content coming up this summer. So that was the Antique Car Days at Sauder Village in Archbold, Ohio. It's a really nice day, and I try and come here every year. They got the whole village. It's always the last week in May, so maybe next year plan a trip down. If you like the channel, please hit like or leave comments down below. Right up here, I've got some of my other videos that you can take a look at, or you can hit right about here. I've got my subscription button. Please do hit that because I like to see some subscribers. Sorry, my camera's bouncing around. It's a little bit windy here. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye.